Yeah. Even I'm just giving you as a co-host just in case,
Okay,
if
yes.
someone drops off
So
and then.
remember, we're gonna go no long. I'll tell you around 11:40, right?
Okay.
So you can start wrapping up if
Okay.
you're still going. Okay.
Okay. Sure. Sure.
Okay, great.
Yep. Let me share my screen. Yep. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much. Again, I'm honored to be here to share my research progress, and I genuinely want to thank and acknowledge for making this meeting out of your busy schedules. I know, Meredith, you are hopping off between hospitals and taking care of Malcolm, and now you're running out of another meeting. But thank you so much for making. I'll try to keep this presentation very brief. Uh, yeah. Yeah, just to give a background story again, I won't go through everything, but I'll kind of keep it short so that, just to get the flavor of my research. Again, it's been a while that we met. So yeah, so my research, it really looks at, understanding like why K-12 educational stakeholders care about my research. What are the real needs of stakeholders in their roles as a teacher, administrator, and principals? Is there a real need for educational technology within schools or school district? What are the real challenges exist on ground that the stakeholders face in their respective roles? um, uh, and is there a real need for innovation and partnerships? Yeah, the background stories of the study is funded by UMass iCorps, and where the data has been collected from ISTE conference, which eventually we want to take this project to NSF iCorps at the national level. And the definitions, again, like I'll be using mostly on educational technology and stakeholder roles. So educational technology, it is referred to EdTech, encompasses a wide range of tools, equipment, and devices, whether electronic or mechanical, that serve the purpose of facilitating educational stakeholders in achieving specific educational or learning objective. And the stakeholders, again, teachers, principals, and administrators. Teachers, specifically the middle school teachers that I'll be talking about. Um, and partnerships and technology integration. So the feedback that I've got during my comms presentation is make sure that the research question is tweaked to the middle school and include the most recent references, which are after 2015, but I've included from 2019, just to be even after COVID pandemic, to be more relevant, and the theoretical framework. And yeah, Daryl also brought up an interesting aspect of defining a successful candidate a PhD is to be able to apply your theoretical framework. That itself differentiates between a successful PhD student versus an unsuccessful. So I really worked hard, and I'll talk about that in the results section. And the sample size, so I've ensured that the data analysis is to reach to the saturation, like getting same types of responses, not new responses, and restricting to the sample specifically to middle school. And you want to hear feedback on like quantifying the qualitative data, so which I'll address in the results section. But yeah, just getting to the motivation. Again, educational technology is a powerful tool. It alone doesn't guarantee learning success. It's not just about technology. There are several factors matter, including how it is used, the context in which it's applied, and the end users themselves. So like in this research, I'm really motivated to explore how these elements intersect to optimize educational technology integration. Again, needs and preferences in education are not really static, right? Like they evolve over time, and in the rapidly changing landscape of K-12 education, I think it's crucial to adapt and understand these evolving needs. And edtech companies play a key role. Like one of the key challenge that we face in edtech, they only think of research as market research, but it is often driven by commercial interests rather than comprehensive understanding of educational needs. Uh, Again, this can limit the effectiveness of edtech solution, and one solution doesn't fit for all. And the other aspect, which I was really intrigued by this paper on small scale commercialization on the global triangle, as you see on the other side, which is the collab, which kind of really emphasizes that collaborative evidence-based product design for edtech, and importance of cross-stakeholder collaborations. This means that working together with teachers, administrators, and other educational professionals to design genuinely the effective technology solution, and shifting the bottom-up needs assessment approach. In the literature review, what I found is most of these studies focused on top-down approach, but this study really took a bottom-up approach to understand the needs at a grassroots level. Uh, yeah, and in today's rapidly evolving landscape of K-12 education in the United States, technology stands at its core, offering both unprecedented opportunities and unique challenges. While educational studies have traditionally centered on student needs and outcome, I think it is equally important to recognize that educators and administrators face distinctive challenges in embracing educational technology. And we often blame failures on teachers, principals, and administrators, but there are a lot of issues that are centered around this. But to address these challenges, unlike other studies, this study focused or places a strong emphasis on taking a bottom-up approach, conducting a thorough need assessment, actively engaging with teachers, middle school teachers, principals, and administrators. Yeah, some of the stats that pulled from Gitunex's market report 2023, 73% is the opportunity to build in terms of a US K-12. Teachers find students increased computer access, improves teaching and learning, and there's a 53% opportunity for a freedom to invent, and 87% of the challenges that still exist. And teachers claim that they spend more time in troubleshooting problems than they did when working in physical classrooms. And again, the goal of this comprehensive proposal is to understand the gaps between current conditions, what is, and desired conditions, what should be in the educational technology based on stakeholder perspectives, considering both classroom and school environment as a whole. And the way that the literature review, which is a cornerstone of understanding the current landscape of educational technology in K-12 setting, and the review is organized into 5 critical sections with most recent studies are included. So the role of educational technology. So I think first we look at the King's and South Vision paper articulated in National Educational Technology Plan of 2017, highlights the technology role in enhancing teaching practices, aiming to amplify and expand their impact significantly. In Joshi's paper, emphasizes technology to empower learners and bridge the digital divide. And in Ali's 2019 study demonstrates how digital technology revolutionized learning, and it enables innovative interactions and real-time assessments, preparing students for a digital-centric future. And the effectiveness of technology in education is measured by its alignment with educational goals, transforming learning experiences both within and beyond the classroom. And these are some of the interesting stats that I pulled from Statistica report and also mentioned in Bucharika 2023. So firstly, a remarkable 96% of students, particularly children, find the educational tools both fun and beneficial for independent learning. And this is a high percent underscores that the growing appeal and effectiveness of these tools in engaging young students. And furthermore, 71% of principals acknowledge that the digital learning tools significantly enhance their students' ability to solve real world problems. And substantially 90% of K-12 public school teachers believe that the digital tools are exceptionally effective for information search and research. And additionally, over half of the K-12 students, about 52%, utilize games focusing on specific skills or content, indicating a shift towards gamification in education. And finally, 2019's Gallup report shows that 57% of all K-12 students in US schools use digital learning tools. As you see on the other side, the graph, it really indicates the breakdown, which I think 64% took by middle school students, which is interesting. And the role of educational technology in teachers, which is Keeney studies, underscores the evolution of teachers from traditional educators to facilitators of learning in the digital age. And the OECD's report highlights the importance of equitable practices in education. While equitable learning is possible without a technology, but the integration of instructional technology is, I think, really essential in the digital society to address diverse educational needs. And lastly, 2019 report on technology in classroom identifies one of these interesting key challenges. Like teachers often struggle with technology integration either due to limited knowledge or discomfort. And This highlights that the crucial need for professional development to enhance technological proficiency and confidence in using technology, educational tools, and the roles of educational technology. So this report, in fact, one of the principal shared to me some of the guidelines, which is interesting. So according to the ISTE guidelines, so some of the roles that administrators, both principals and administrators, are accountable for, which is creating and implementing technology curriculum, ensuring that teachers and students have the opportunity to obtain skills in technology, communicating to parents the opportunities available to students in this area, and creating a teacher evaluation instrument that really assess teacher proficiency in integrating technology into curriculum, and serving as a chief recruiter in attracting teachers who has dominant technological skills. And Student-centered learning and 21st century skills. Bunai 23 research highlights that the importance of student-centered learning, nurturing 21st century skills like creativity, adaptability, and teamwork, which are essential for technological-driven global environment. And Fatima's 2022 report study on game-based learning reveals that its effectiveness in developing critical thinking and computational thinking and decision making. So it also emphasizes that how gaming enhances communication and teamwork skills, preparing students for real world challenges. And school university partnerships. So the UCLA Handbook on Partnerships emphasizes the importance of collaboration among schools, families, and communities to achieve mutual educational goals and shared resources for district development. In 2023, the Biden and Harris administration advocated for strong ties between colleges, universities, and school districts. They encouraged the use of federal work study, which is FWS, which is most commonly used, and other resources to increase college student involvement in supporting K-12 education. And specifically, they spoke about out of school or after school programs, which is very interesting to see how the government is supporting on the partnerships footprint. And Yeah, getting to the theoretical framework, which is the technology acceptance model, which is introduced by Davis in 1989, serves as a theoretical framework for this research. It is widely recognized model to understand the technological acceptance, especially I'm applying this to understand the K-12 educational context. So in general, like the TAM revolves on two ideas, two core beliefs, which is perceived usefulness, where it is believed that technology enhances work performance. Secondly, perceived ease of use, which is the belief that technology should be effortless to use. And the central to the TAM concept, which is behavioral intention. So the graph, the image that you see, this refers to the intention to use a specific technology, which is influenced by its perceived usefulness and ease of use. And the other framework that I'll be using, thanks Daryl for sharing this. This is very much relevant to this research. I didn't thought that it is something different, but actually, so this Braunferner bioecological model, which is developed by Yuri Braunferner in 1970. So this model framework is specifically for understanding human development within interacting systems. So it consists of microsystem, which is immediate environment like family and school, mesosystem, interactions between microsystems such as family and teachers, and exosystem, which is indirect influences like parents and workforce, workplaces, and macrosystem, which is a broader societal and cultural context like chronosystem evolution over time in individual and their context. Um, and Yeah, moving to the research question, which is again, how do middle school K-12 STEM educational stakeholders, teachers, principals, and administrators perceive the alignment of educational technology with the goals and needs of their classes and school? And what specific challenges do they encounter in integrating and implementing educational technology in their classes? And do K-12 STEM teachers, specifically math and computing, think similarly or differently than educational leaders like principals and administrators? And on the partnerships, how this is slightly on a different tangent, which is how do K-12 STEM educational stakeholders define and perceive the role of school university partnerships to facilitate their roles as educators or school district administrators? And the methodology, which is again It's a qualitative study, focused on exploring understanding needs, where I've used semi-structured or one-to-one interviews with middle school math, computer science teachers, principals, and IT directors. Each interview lasted between 10 to 15 minutes, and it's audio recorded. And these are the topics that are covered during the interview, like personal backgrounds, critical literacy, 21st century skills, student activities and learning, and frustration, burnout, both students and teachers at an institution level. And areas needing support both in class and after class, technology usage and integration, existing, like what are the existing tools they have currently in their schools, which is what type of electronic device access, and technology usage policies, decision dynamics, student teacher ratio, and partnerships. And the participant recruitment, so again, the location, which is at ISTE conference, happened in Philadelphia on 20 June, in the month of June. And this is one of the global conference where it's a gathering of educational leaders like principals, educators, and all the thought and influential leaders and those decision makers who really define what technology need to be used in their schools. And the selection, it's 15 participants, but for this study, as you see the data grid, I've considered 9 participants out of 15 for this study, which are specifically from the public schools to narrow down my focus. And for the data analysis, it's an inductive ground up approach, which essentially like deriving themes from the data itself. And the stages that are involved, which is 7 stages: preparing and organizing the data for analysis, transcribing the data, and making sure that familiarity with the data and memoing the data. I'll talk about all these phases in the next slide, but I've used Excel, Dovetail, qualitative data analysis software for coding and categorization. So in the phase 1, like again, it's preparing and organizing the data for the analysis. I've established a structured and systematic framework for data organization and prepared a metadata documentation, like defined participant IDs and participant codes. And so for which I've used Dovetail, as you see the screenshot on the left, and then transcribing the data. So for which I've used Dovetail, and like I've read, it's like I've never read a document over more than like 15-20, but this data, I think, because given that I haven't done much of a qualitative studies, I was doing more on the quantitative studies, but it is a really good exercise for me to apply my brain and work towards a qualitative. And the coding, which started with like initial labeling. I started like labeling, as you see here, label the content like skills to develop 21st century skills, which I've used both axial coding, selective coding, which in the axial coding, it involved like relating categories to subcategories and specifying the properties and dimensions. And in the selective categories, selective coding, this approach focuses on systematically connecting and integrating categories to form a cohesive and comprehensive theory and iterative refinement. So I've done this through multiple rounds of coding until the same process is being repeated until reach the saturation in terms of like getting same types of responses and ensuring that they accurately represent the data. And then once after the codes are being defined, for moving the codes to categories and categories to themes, I've used Excel, which I felt kind of easy to organize rather than the NVO. So as you see here, so like I have all the codes and then the evidence of code and then the source code URL. And then I kind of bucketed them to the categories. And then I'll talk about the themes. So I have broken down my research question. So the first research question is pretty broad, right? As you see here, it has how do middle school K-12 educational stakeholders perceive the alignment of educational technology with the goals and needs of their class and school. So I've broken down this first question, and then what are the specific challenges do they encounter? So I've broken down this challenges question as a second question, and then I've broken down this uh, comparison in terms of like how K-12 teachers, middle school teachers think similar or differently than the educational leaders like principals and administrators. So yeah, so the theme one, which is like, so here again, I've broken down by goals and by need. So now I'll talk about the goals and the theme that emerged, which is technological empowerment in STEM education. It's very interesting that the goals that the stakeholders are talking about, which is technology for creation. So in terms of like quantification, two teachers and one IT director along the side of two principals emphasized on technology for creation. So principal spoke about, I think, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, pretty much everything that everybody talks about. But the more they focus on using technology, not just as consumers, but learn how it works and then become creators, I think it's an important skill. And I want to make sure that students use, another teacher indicated, I want to make sure that students are using it is not just to consume information but actually produce their own products. So whatever you see the codes here, it is nothing, it's directly coming from the participant transcripts. So, and the other goal which they kind of which emerged to this theme is connecting to real world. And IT director spoke about some students will get frustrated when they're dealing with something that's fake or completely fake. They want to see real data and they want to see real implications of examples that teachers use in their classrooms. And preparing students for future technology. Here, IT director emphasizes that I feel that it's going to set a good precedence for how students should be able to approach the future and how they adopt growing technologies and get them and use them in proper ways. And ethical and safe use of technology, I have never thought that this would emerge as a goal for specifically for principals and as well as teachers. So one of the principal emphasized that I think preparing our educators and our students for how to use ethically and safely. I think with now the advent of inventions on chat gpt and all the other tools that in education, I think it is important that teachers should be and principals should allow students to learn ethical and safe use of technology. And the second theme, which is around needs, like I've broken down goals and needs. So now moving to needs. So like most common need, which is computational thinking, like mostly teachers emphasized about computational thinking, which is being able to look for patterns makes it easier, being able to learn and form solution algorithms, and then applying what you learn to other things. So to me, problem solving, specifically using this kind of computational thinking to do problem solving, is what is critical. And another teacher indicated that the most engaging activities that my students have once they've learned about how to apply computational thinking, such as algorithms, decomposition, patterns. And then she spoke about robotics. She mentioned they're using this robotics club in their school to teach computational thinking. And collaboration and learning is the other aspect that emerged for this theme, which is principal emphasize that those skills can't be you don't find those skills in textbook. So you have to really learn while applying things. So, and the other one is time management, which is principals and teacher emphasized. One principal said that I have hard time keeping up with my students because they always want two steps ahead of me, and all I have to give them. And the other principal, when students started working on individual personalized projects, students are so reliant on getting approval from teacher before they're starting something. So, and maybe she's hoping having that, building that independence, or maybe tools that support for this process would be beneficial from her standpoint. And celebrating the process over product. So mostly principals and IT director emphasized, which is on celebrating the process, not the product, is something that is crucial. So I think a couple of things that I didn't include here given the space constraints, but the conversation was more around educational technology tools or learning technology tools often only appreciate that the student success, and they give points like number of, like if I solve 10 math problems, it will just give me as 10 score. But it should also there should be a process that should allow celebrating the process, not the final goal, which is critical. And managing classrooms distraction with technology. Two principals, two teachers, one principal and one IT director emphasized. Again, they've mentioned problems with phones and how students get distracted with their phones. And one of the IT director also mentioned that when monitoring their work, you need to pay attention to that so that they don't get into apps or see other things that are not appropriate on the internet for their age. And then the second part of question, which is around second part of my research question, which is about challenges, right? So I have further broken down the challenges into three subcategories. which is technical challenges, pedagogical challenges, and resource challenges. So starting with technical challenges, the theme that emerged, which is technical hurdles and solution. So challenges with integration. So here, I think it's very interesting to see that IT director spoke about this aspect on, like, it takes a lot of time to integrate technology into meaningful lessons. And we have that's a current problem. And there's the fancy virtual reality, but no one has a time to figure out what to do with it. And frustration with service failures, like, again, directors and principals emphasize that, the frustration would come in if the service doesn't work, and students always tend to give up, when they notice some service issues with the tools and educational technology. And technology pros and cons, so again, teachers and principals emphasize. So usually what I end up doing, I'll tell, one of the teachers said this, which is, I'll tell them to, someone quietly, one on one, or you got that phone, to put your phone away. So, like, they notice that mobile phones are kind of distraction in the learning setting. And principal also emphasize that each technology has its pros and cons, and that has to be evaluated depending on what is your purpose behind using that technology. And now moving to the pedagogical level challenges, here they spoke about challenges in student collaboration. Mostly teachers kind of emphasize, which is the idea of all students collaborating and not just few of them. Sometimes it's hard because very skilled student, they usually take over the job of other students and don't let other students collaborate. And then challenges with lecture based learning. So the lecturing and sharing knowledge is easy to do, but engaging students is a bit tricky and takes some practice. And engagement and effective e-learning, IT director and principals emphasized on this, which is teachers are also trying to figure out how technology ties into standard and where it might be a problem in implementation. And one of the principal pointed out Minecraft, which is a product of Microsoft, is one of the biggest favorites right now in their school sims, and integrating the preference for interactive learning and the purpose driven technology integration. So, like, teachers and principals emphasized on this, having a technology should be integrated into the school with the proper purpose. So every technology has to be evaluated with underlying purpose behind using it. And the other principal also emphasized that, there is new shiny technology that always pops up in the market, and will invest thousands of dollars in new thing, but they don't ever get why. Like, why am I using this? What is the student outcome that I'm trying to do? And so making sure that we are going into deeper into learning using the technology, not just fooled by the next flashy thing. And resource level challenges. So challenges with device breakage and replacement. Again, teachers emphasized on this aspect, which is a lot of students go without devices. They have broken down, and we are not supported by our district in replacing and maintaining those devices. And teacher again expressed the other concern. A lot of our students go without because, oh, I think it's either go down because they either are in repair. And the challenges with funding and time. Again, this is one of the most common thing that educational leaders spoke about, which is funding is a big challenge, even in a tech-focused district. My budget got cut severely this year, affecting the consistency of getting funding. And educational society and state accountability. So this is all, I didn't expect that something like this would also emerge in the data, which is principles emphasize that we are an educational society, and we have to, given that we are a public schools, and we have to follow the state accountability, and there is always pressure on restrictions in terms of hiring, and budget is something they spoke about. And thinking of, like, the third part of my first research question, which is comparisons. Now, looking at the similarities, so the perspectives of middle school math and computer teacher, so focused on practical skills and curriculum alignment, and challenges in student engagement and understanding, which the frustration comes when you give them a project and it looks like they're never going to accomplish it. And hands-on and interactive, so, like, teachers emphasized on robotics is a way to teach and make them learn and build. And looking at the differences, this is very interesting. So some of the things that principals and IT directors spoke about, which is teacher control over technology integration. uh, so we are a one-to-one, and our teachers integrate even cell phones, but I think the teachers will always dictate when students can or cannot, because sometimes it's a lecture, or sometimes it's lab, or sometimes it is so like principal said that despite whatever the technology that we bring to the school, teachers are the end decision makers, whether they want to apply that in the classroom or not, and lack of time for technology integration. So it is also surprising to see this coming from an IT director, because IT directors, I think, again, this is my opinion, I think IT directors are the ones that who evaluate a product before they actually get something. But again, they emphasize that it takes a lot of time to integrate technology into meaningful lessons, and you don't spend all your class time trying to plan like what is the current problem. Like they got something fancy on virtual space and reality, and they are still figuring out what to do with it. And purpose driven technology integration, so they spoke about having something more on like a purposeful product. But again, like if we look at the comparisons, right, while both groups recognize the critical role of technology, but their focus areas are quite different, which is teachers prioritize on immediate application and student interaction, while educational leaders address some of those systematic issues like policy, equity, and resource management as a whole, and even professional development. And now moving to my second research question, which is on the partnerships. So again, the themes that emerged from which is collaboration and mutual benefits. So teachers and principals emphasize. So we seek partnerships where we can give back, but it is always not the same thing. And I really like, this is one of my favorite quote in the whole data, which is community engagement and service project. So one of the principal emphasized that we always seek partners where we can give back. So, like parks, which is recreational centers, let's give back and help them design a park. Or our homeless population, let's get back and see if we can design a service project around them. So given and taken is not always something the same thing. And then university collaborations and partnerships. So teachers and principals kind of spoke about, and one of the principal talked about, which is moving forward with partnership. So we recently got into a grant with University of Texas. I would like to see where you have so this is how they're kind of defined. So I would like to see where you have two entities that work together for each of their common goal. And principals emphasize that we seek partners where we can give back. It's always not the same thing. And like, I think partnership is anybody that you can work with and share ideas and give feedback. So since one of the teacher, but since we are a small, we do I have the with the school district is mainly with funding, but we mainly partner with our students, our parent community. Then we partner with vendors like developers, and then varied nature of partnership. So this is interesting again, came from IT director, principals, and teachers. So like IT director spoke about, we do it in number of ways. Some are formal and some are informal. So what he mean by formal and informal, which is formals, these teachers are directly collaborating with the professors, but whereas which is informal, whereas formal, they are getting partnerships with like university partnerships. And surprisingly, these principals and IT director, they even spoke about NSF grants, which is very very interesting. And I didn't expect that principals would speak about NSF grants. But yeah. And again, one of the other teachers, so this is also one of my favorite quote, which is one of the thing that we really kind, which is a grassroots level partnership. So this teacher himself, like he got connected with Town University. Have you heard of a resource called code.org? He mentioned that they have a list of professionals that work in industry that are willing to be a guest lecturers or meet with people in classrooms. So I got connected with this professor, and they were, so in fact, they presented a poster in collaboration with this institute. So it's very interesting to see how teachers are also prioritizing partnerships as a way forward. And
You have to
moving to,
start wrapping up so that
yeah,
just a few more slides. Yeah.
yeah, last two
More.
slides.
Mhm.
Yeah. So applying theoretical framework to practice. So this is what I was talking about. Like, I think it required some work, but definitely, I think I see, like, in analyzing data, and several themes emerged and linked to the technology acceptance and Bronfener bioecological model. I think the first theme aligns with the TAM, with the view on technology usefulness and enhancing learning outcomes from bioecological. And then speaking from bioecological perspective, It is seen that the microsystem through interactions in educational setting and the mesosystem where collaborations between educators and students is facilitated, and overcoming barriers in theme 2, which is the focus on understanding and integration challenges through again TAM's lens, which is on perceived ease of use, and along the side microsystems from BBM model, which is addressing the tech barriers and supporting indirectly by broader environment like exosystem. And the team 3, which is this again relates to ease of use on the principle of TAM. It involves like managing technical issues within the classroom or school, and from the microsystem, from the BBM model standpoint, with the support from wider institutional structures, including exosystem. And with the theme 4 on the pedagogical adoption to technology, this theme emphasizes that the technology adoption is based on its perceived benefits to teaching and learning. And speaking from the BBM, which is exploring mesosystem interplay between different educational role and settings, and theme 5, which is resource allocation. Again, this is in line with TAM. Again, it suggests the ease of resources, access, influences, technology, integration, feasibility, considering broader factors like funding and policy, speaking from exosystem and macrosystem. And then theme 6, which is classroom centric and tech approaches, which evaluates technology based on its usefulness and ease of use in classroom, again, which is from microsystem standpoint, influencing how teaching and learning process. And strategic tech vision, which is theme 7, which again influenced by perceived long-term benefits of educational goals, which again from the TAM standpoint, but interacting with, again, this can be achieved only through interacting with broader educational policies and societal norms, which is at a macro system in the BBM model. And theme 8, which again, not directly related to TAM, but this theme highlights the importance of collaborative relationship across schools, universities, and communities, which is mesosystem and exosystem, which are influenced at a policy and community level. And the last theme, which is again also beyond TAM, it emphasizes that external partnership with this exosystem and societal values, which is a macro system in shaping educational practices and priorities. I think both frameworks kind of go hand in hand. Speaking of the data integrity, which is the last slide. Again, given it's a qualitative data, so a lot of credibility should come in with member checking and making sure that the part. So over Thanksgiving break, I bugged all the participants, given that I have their email IDs, and they said that I could reach out. So after several follow-ups, they've responded. So they've reviewed the transcript and also reviewed the themes just to make sure that whatever the findings that I've got is accurately representing what they meant. And then again, also ensured that critical friend group and reflexive journaling. So because given that I, as a researcher, I might have some biases, just to avoid that biases, I've involved critical friends group for audit trial, and tracking emerging expressions during the data. And again, the conclusion, which is again underscores the crucial role of educational technology in partnerships in K-12 education, revealing diverse stakeholder perspectives on technology as a tool for student empowerment and addressing challenges from computational thinking to time management. And the contrast perspectives, it highlights the difference that teachers focus on immediate needs, which are practical applications and student engagement, and educational leaders emphasize on policy, equity, and resource management. And the significance of school-university partnerships is evident, emphasizing their collaboration to enriching educational experiences through diverse collaborative efforts. Again, my goal is transforming education, one school, one teacher, one school at a time. Yeah, thank you so much. Again, any thoughts or any future directions, and do you see this work could be used in any conference that I could aim for? But yeah, looking forward for your suggestions.
Thank you, Krishna.
Thank you.
Maybe we can start just by, if anybody has any questions before we just move, just to talk between us. Um, is there any clarifying questions? Anything that you want specifically to ask Krishna?
I think that I could move to having our discussion.
Okay. And you, Meredith?
No. Yeah, I've got some questions, but they're trying to think about whether they need to be asked now or if they can be asked later. let me consider it for a sec. Just so I understand, actually, let me ask this. So is this like the plan for everything else you're going to be doing, or is this just a plan for a piece the of it?
Oh, so this is for comms. So yeah, I think Meredith, you're right. So in the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences, so I think the comms structure is slightly different, but in College of
Yeah.
Education. So
Yeah,
yeah, the
there's
idea
a
is,
difference.
you
Yeah.
have to pick a project and then, apply your class learnings from your courses, all the courses that you've took, and then,
Gotcha.
do a small research project. So just to show that, you can do a small scale research project, and then,
Perfect.
and then for dissertation, it can be a same project or different project, but this project kind of
Or it
bases.
could build on this, but it's not the, gotcha.
Yeah,
No,
it's
that
not, it's just
dissertation is
for a
just
com.
kind of a project that is small enough, but it's significant enough to show that
Perfect.
you can do research.
Gotcha. So this is basically a coding project in my language on this question that's a huge question.
A huge question, right? But he
And
has some data, and right, you realize that it's limited data, right?
yeah,
But he had some questions. He applied a methodology. He drew
perfect.
conclusions, and the question is, do we think that he's ready to move forward, right, towards
Perfect.
dissertation process, right?
Perfect. That's what I wanted to check where we were. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also any thoughts in terms of like whether this work can be, published, given this is a small sample, but yeah, Meredith, Daryl, or Yvonne, any conferences that I could aim or, submit this work?
Mhm. This is qualitative. So the idea is that the sample is not huge, right? In general, but you're focusing in the depth and trying to understand what is it that they're saying so that you can follow up with new studies, right?
Yeah. There definitely were some interesting themes and some interesting quotes there. So I think there's some interesting stuff going on.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was also wondering on the themes because again, when I was like looking at the all ISLS conferences or like, teacher conferences, so I think that might be a good place, but I don't know if there are like, specific conferences that have deadlines maybe next month or, the upcoming months that I could kind of turn this and, or maybe one kind of suggested that, I could use ISTE again the next year's and then present this work given like the participants are from ISTE and them.
Bet you get a lot more interviews after you present it. Everyone would want to come give you their perspective.
Right. I'm gonna tell you what you think, right?
I'm going to tell you all the things you
Good,
missed and
right?
didn't ask and what really is going on here.
Which is a good thing, probably, right? Kind of synthesize what is it that the people from this community believe, right?
There's also, I just wanted to mention the Computer Science Teacher Association conference, which has a New England chapter. I just went to the conference in Storrs, Connecticut last month. I don't know the sort of cycle they go through with the national and local conferences, but it certainly seems like something that is potentially, relevant.
Okay. But Daryl, did you see with like sample of 9 participants, like get like, are they even accepted for these conferences? That's my big question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's less the number of participants and more what is the design of the study, what is the methodology you're building on, speaking to, and are those sensible, reasonable decisions to be able to address the research questions? Those seem like the more important questions to me to think about rather than, is the number sort of big or small enough? Although certainly I can understand sort of why you're asking that question and, yeah.
I would also say that depending on how you, so for example, if you wanted to do it like a policy type of conference, because I think something like this could go at a policy and education conference, but you would probably want to have a bit of a diffusion of innovations or a policy implementation spin on it. Which I don't know if you're familiar with it all, but like they would definitely work. I would say at those conferences, you wouldn't have to just do middle school. You could do any of your 15 interviews originally. Because that's going to matter less to a policy person. They aren't going to see the difference, if that makes sense, any more than they would see the difference between the educators and the principals. Like there's the New England Political Science Association has a really strong policy branch, and they do a conference. It might have already happened. I don't actually pay attention to it. There's one in the spring and one in the fall. I would have to look those up, whatever they are.
Got it. Interesting. I was never, thought of looking at this from a policy standpoint, but I was more thinking from the teachers and
Yeah,
educational
but
point.
it's
But I
definitely
think
got a
there
policy
might be also,
implementation
yeah.
spend that could be had, right?
Okay.
So I will open a breakout room. I don't think I can assign you. Let's see.
How
Assign.
do,
No,
or
I don't
should
have.
I drop out from the meeting and then drop in?
No, no, no. Look, can you go to the breakout rooms?
Uh,
No rooms. Okay. Oh, there you go. Okay.
I've never done this breakout room, Sam.
Yeah. Do you see the breakout rooms at the bottom?
Uh,
Apparently, I cannot assign you, maybe because.
Oh, I
Maybe you
can.
just sign all of us and Krishna stays in the main room.
Uh,
Okay, let's do that. If we can do it. Do you know how to do it? Yeah. You stay here then, Krishna. We'll
okay.
go.
Okay.
Okay. There you go.
Well, Yvonne went.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
there,
I don't see the option to do that.
oh, so there is
I
a
think, Krishna,
more.
you might need to assign us to a
Yes, you might have to sign us to go.
which likely is just one option.
Oh, do you see?
I can't see it. Oh, now I see the breakout room and Meredith
Okay.
too. Okay, we'll be back.
Okay.
closer. Hi, we're back. Okay. Here they are. Everybody's back.
Okay, it worked.
Okay. Oh, is Daryl back? Or, well, Daryl really had to go to. Okay, I understood that he was gonna come back, but maybe not.
It was really weird for us. It might have been that he hit leave meeting when he was trying to leave the room. Like that happened to me. It was very confusing.
Okay, so congratulations, Krishna. You've passed your comps.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Yvonne. I think, the support that you have provided throughout the, whole comms, it was pretty nervous ever since, transitioning from DAX to, PhD, and the course didn't count. I had to redo again. But yeah, it was a whole journey. But thank you so much, Meredith. I know it's been a stressful time for you as well. I'm so sorry to pull you to this
No,
meeting.
no, I'm sorry I was late with Ray being a pain in the ass, but it was lovely to see how far you've come, Krishna. It really was.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
so much,
we
Meredith.
have comments. We have comments, and especially informing in case you want to continue in this direction towards your dissertation as feedback.
Mhm.
And well, we believe that the theories are, it's hard to fit the theories with the data, especially the TAM model one seems like a very simple theory, and the teachers are saying so many different things, and that maybe that's a kind of a very simple thing. Darren mentioned something about people talking a lot about tech is great, right? But there's many different kinds of technology. Sometimes they're talking the technology as an end, sometimes the technology as a mean to learn something, or when they're talking the 21st century skill, it just seems a little superficial, right? So we were saying how the theories also, they might be kind of too general, or maybe the TAM one particularly is too broad, right? And the second one seemed to fit a little better, but maybe going forward, you might want to start looking at those interactions between the different levels of the second theory, right? And how is it? Because this came out in your conclusion slide. You were talking about this theme fits these two different layers, right? So there's a lot of richness there, right? In Meredith, maybe you can say a little bit more about what you. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just saying that it's funny for me because I think there's still like theory that's missing there, right? Which would be part of what we would love to, or I would love to see you sort of push a little bit at if you go forward with it. But I think the idea that, are people talking about the cultural norms? Are they talking about, right, the technology jobs? Like which part of the system of that, the sort of setup, and again, it's not exactly a theory, right? It's more like that's what I was calling it, almost like an ontology. It tells you what all you have to pay attention to. Um, was there in that framework, the bioecological framework. Uh, I would love to have seen you sort of pull out some of those things. And I know that's different than the inductive ground up. It's more of a like ground down, like looking for, are people mentioning these things or not, and how much of their time is spent there.
So when is if the ground up theory really starts from the bottom up, but there's another one that starts both from the bottom and the top,
Is
right?
it grounded theory? I mean, I've learned in Meredith's class
Right.
during
Yeah, I
the
Grounded is
think,
qualitative.
really bottom up, right?
yeah. But it's like an informed grounded theory, right? It's informed by your theoretical things, but you still pay attention to the words, I think. I'm sure there's a word for it. I never actually learned any of the words because most of those people who do critical theory are a bit weird for me. But, yeah, I think that it would be really useful to sort of think about it almost like as a matrix, right? So you've got this side and your other side, and how much do they line up or not?
Right. Yeah, I think that there were a few things that there were little subtleties in sometimes the terms. For instance, I saw the theme of the needs and the themes of the challenges, and then I said, but aren't these needs challenges? I had a little hard time differentiating between needs and challenges and how this might be different, right? They're very related. So, sometimes being very precise in the terms, I think it's important. For instance, in one of the classifications the themes you're talking about time management, and I think that was really referring to teachers overload and
Oh,
their need for being able to get help and support in their task. Yeah, it's related to time, right? But not necessarily it was time management, right? It was more about support in, in their daily tasks, right? To make their life easier, right? I don't know.
I was thinking that also with the project thing, like we send them off to do the projects and then we don't know. And all I can think of is that means that they don't actually have a really carefully staged project, which means not every teacher should have to work that out, right? But there aren't carefully staged projects out there with the right support for them to use, like, right, this sort of
But I think in a dissertation, if you continue along this line, we will also have a lot more time to look at more carefully at the data and the codes and get a lot more feedback, before you present or you start drawing conclusions. So there's going to be a lot more possibilities for iteration with feedback from your community, right?
I think also on the reflexive point, there also something that triggered a thought in my head, which is, the setting you're in, you've got people who are coming to this conference, which means they're already more engaged than like probably, 90% of the educators out there.
Mhm.
And you're talking about technology and they, in the sort of classic interviewer, like, experiment expectancy, right? They're going to want to impress you that they care about technology too. And so some of the bad stuff may get buried, right? You aren't seeking out the people that are bad. And so I think that in analyzing your data, keeping that in mind, that you might be getting a racy view, or that you might have to look carefully at some of the things like, well, like you're saying, challenges, right? There's probably a lot more buried in there. And I'm just thinking about how amazing that one teacher must have been to go to code.org and find a professional and call up. Like, I mean, you can't expect that of 98%, 99% of other teachers. They're already working overtime for not enough money, right? And so
Yeah.
anyway, just something to keep in mind in your
I
analysis.
think that that's
Right.
really
Yeah, that sounds
interesting
right.
because even ever since I started working on this data, so Yvonne and I was thinking on a different project, but then we realized that since I was invested my time in the iCorp, so why don't I pull this project? But that was a question, right? With the sample, they are more focused in the technology-based conference. It is very evident that they speak about the technologies, but maybe if I would have gone through like maybe Amherst Public School and maybe talk in their school setting, their responses might be completely different than what they spoke about during my interview. So for
Yeah.
Yeah.
discipline, I'll make sure that I'll have a broad sample with
Yeah.
classification.
And so you're getting people who are now that doesn't mean that it's wrong not to understand their point of view, but you aren't getting the
Mhm. Yeah.
and
Okay.
see.
I have to leave, unfortunately. You can stay, continue talking if you want. But there's a form that we need to sign. Maybe you can circulate it around. I really have to go to this other
Okay.
advisory